want to get you more on our top story now, and it's an important one. Unblocking Ukrainian grain in a deal that could help food supply chains already battered by a pandemic. In the last hour, Moscow and Kyiv signing a grain export agreement mediated by Turkey and the United Nations. It was quite quiet, but it was a momentous act designed to move millions of tons of grain, Ukrainian grain trapped in the country's Black Sea ports by Russia's invasion. This corridor should be hugely significant in addressing the global food shortage that we are seeing today. I'm delighted to say that the UN Secretary General, one of the architects of this deal, Antonio Guterres, joins me live from Istanbul. Sir, it's good to have you. Congratulations on getting this across the line. How long before the shipments begin, sir?
I hope that very soon. In my discussion with our Ukrainian friends, harbors will be ready. Two of the harbors will be ready in a few days, and we hope that if ships can go in, we will be able maximum 2 weeks to start exporting. But these things are always relatively complex. Let us not forget that there will not be a demining. So there will be safe corridors managed by the Ukrainian authorities conducting the ships to the harbors. And when they enter or when they leave, they will then enter into a corridor whose safety and security is guaranteed by all the parties.
Yeah, these ships carrying the grain will have to navigate minefields, which could prove to be difficult and highly dangerous. Can we just get a bit more detail on how you plan to implement this deal?
Well, the mines were put by the Ukrainians, so they know where the mines are. And the idea is that it is possible to have safe passages that allow ships to go without any risk. But the agreement also establishes that in case the analysis that will now be made will detect that some improvements need to be made, there is an agreement for another country to be involved in a quick demining operation wherever necessary, but we hope it won't be necessary in those safe passages in Ukrainian waters. Let's not forget that in these Ukrainian waters, the ships will be conducted by Ukrainian pilots and supported by the Ukrainian Coast Guard.
Are you confident that this deal will stick, particularly from the Russian side? Do you trust them?
Well, I mean, nobody believed when I said 3 months ago that I had made this proposal to President Putin and to President Zelensky, and that we were starting to work on it. Everybody was saying this was not possible. It has happened. So I believe it is in the mutual interest of the parties, because this will represent not only an important solution for the Ukraine that has all the silos full and the new harvest being made, so it's vital to export Ukrainian grains. But we are working also, as it is known, with the US and with the EU. The US has already issued a statement in relation to this. There are no sanctions on food and fertilizers, and so Russian food and fertilizers will also be able to be in access to the world markets. And these two combined operations will mean a huge injection that I believe will bring prices down, will stabilize the markets, and will allow developing countries that are in an extremely difficult situation and vulnerable populations where famine is growing, that will allow this to stop. That was our objective, our motivation. What has guided us during these 3 months, they were very difficult, many obstacles, but I have to say, today I feel I'm living probably the most important day of my tenure of Secretary General.
Is there a mechanism in place to hold parties accountable should they renege on this deal, sir?
There is a joint coordination committee. That joint coordination committee has representatives of the UN, Turkey, Russia, and Ukraine. All movements will be coordinated by this committee. All ships that will be in this movement will be registered and will be followed through remote mechanisms that exist. in order to make sure that we all know at any moment where any boat, any ship is, and there is a clear commitment of the parties that not only no attacks will be made on any of these ships, but that the control will be remote, not to have warships in the proximity. So I strongly believe that we have now a clear mechanism to, if there is anything wrong, if there is an infraction, to make accountability very easy to establish.
Last month, you marked the grim milestone of 100 days of war to renew a call for an immediate end to this violence. More than a month on, with no end in sight, do you accept the criticism of the UN's failure to halt Moscow's aggression?
Well, I don't think it is a failure of the Secretariat of the UN. If there is a failure, is in the Security Council, where, of course, the Russian veto doesn't allow for any decision to stop the war and to make sure that the UN Charter and international law are respected. But I think the UN has been doing an extraordinary work from the humanitarian point of view. And we had already two interventions in which our mediation, the second one together with Turkey. The first was the release in safety and security of the civilians from Azovstal, that for months was considered impossible until we got involved. And now this agreement. So I believe the UN is doing a lot. But one thing is clear. We are far from a peace agreement. And I have some mixed feelings. On one hand, I must say I'm happy because we got what we wanted. But at the same time, I'm very unhappy to see that the war is raging, that the people are being killed, that the Ukrainian people are suffering. And obviously, I can only hope that this beacon of the Black Sea will allow to inspire people to move into a road to peace. A road to peace always in respect of international law.
And you have described today's agreement as a beacon of light, a beacon of hope in the Black Sea. The symbolism of seeing the Russians and the Ukrainians at the same table, certainly, is one that ought to provide some optimism in what is such a grim situation. Russia's permanent membership of the UN Security Council does effectively render that body ineffective at present. That must be a concern to you, isn't it?
Well, my message is very clear. Let us all be inspired by what was achieved. Let's be conscious that we are very far from a situation in which a true peace process is possible. But let's do everything we can to create the conditions for it to happen. But, I repeat, to happen in respect for the UN Charter and international law.
Your work is tireless, sir. You deserve congratulations for the work that was done behind the scenes to help broker the deal today. You explained, as did the Turkish president, that this is months in the making. It is really good news that we see this deal announced today. Congratulations on that. But as you rightly point out, we need to see the end to this war.
If I may, there is one thing I would like to say. In this world in which everybody now is basically talking to the media before trying to do anything, I think this has demonstrated that there is still a role for discreet diplomacy in the world. There is still a role for people seeking the solution of the problems and not seeking the protagonism in the media that lasts for a few hours but has no impact on the ground or on the sea.
You make a very good point. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.